Hey there, this is Elena with Black Sheep 303 Creative, and my project today is a tropical sunset card made using an experiment with Distress Oxides. So to start off with, I have several colors of Distress Oxide that I'm putting on my mat here. I've got Fossilized Amber, Spiced Marmalade, Worn Lipstick, Wilted Violet will be the next one, and then Faded Jeans. I've put them down in kind of sunset order. And now I'm going to spray them with my Distress sprayer to get them pretty wet. And I'm going to just drag this piece of Arches cold pressed watercolor paper through the color to kind of try to get like a sunset look on the page. And I like that, but I wanted some more pink and I wanted a little more blue. So I added some of those and a little more orange. And so I'm going to try to smoosh this piece of watercolor paper back down to get a little more of that color onto the card, and that worked fairly well. I'm blotting it a little bit where it gets too wet with a paper towel. And I did then dry it with my heat gun, and now I'm going back and trying to add some like kind of droplets of color into the various spots by putting down the color and then spraying it and then pressing the dried watercolor paper onto that. And it did work fairly effectively. Now the orange and pink is a little hard to see the difference, and then I'm adding yellow to the bottom, and same with the yellow. But in person, you may not be able to see it real well on camera, although while it's wet you can tell. But in person you can really see it, and it's actually quite dimensional. So I was really happy with how that turned out. And then for my palm tree, I am using the Hero Arts paper layering palm tree die. And the cool thing is, like, the middle, you can lift up the pieces to create dimension, and then the outside cuts the outer silhouette, obviously. And I cut this on some Gina K Designs Jelly Bean Green paper, and now I'm using my Distress blending tool to add, this is tea dye Distress ink to this. And there are coconuts kind of in the center of the die, so I'm trying to get the little center black, brown as well. And then this is brushed corduroy that I'm adding some darkness to it with. Now this is Twisted Citron, and I'm trying to kind of go along the top edges of the branches and a little bit here and there on the inside of them. And then this is Mowed Lawn, and I'm trying to go along more of the bottom of the branches to create some separation between each of the branches and to also get some interesting texture going on those areas that lift up out of the die. So I was kind of using my tool as more of like the side of it, kind of like almost like to draw on with it, rather than like just smooshing across the whole thing. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And so there you have my tree, and then I sprayed it with my Distress sprayer. Now I'm trying to get big droplets on there, and I'm going to blot it with the paper towel. And it doesn't look like much right now, but after it dries, you do see that a little bit more than you do right now. And then I took my Distress marker in ground espresso to highlight the coconuts a little bit. Now for my beach, I cut a piece of very light tan paper using the Stitched Hillside's borders die from Lawn Fawn. And then this is the Ocean Hillside pop-up add-on that I cut some Ocean Mist Gina K Designs paper with. And now I'm going to put a little bit of tea dye on this sandy piece to give it a little bit of sort of smudgy dimension. I'm not trying to get it smooth, I'm trying to get it textured. And then same with Broken China onto the wave piece. Like I'm purposely trying to be kind of blotchy with it to get sort of a textural blotchy effect. And this is my greeting. So this is the Neat and Tangled Hello There die that I got from my buddy Nicole Wade. Thanks, Nicole. And I did trim it down a little bit. It gets pretty scrolly underneath, so I did trim that off a little bit, but you'll see it here in a second because I cut a second one from Fun Foam to use to add behind it. Now I wanted to sparkle it up, so I got my Quickie glue pen and I'm just drawing on it, and then I'm sprinkling Elizabeth Craft Designs Cool Diamond glitter all over it. And once the glue dries, and you know it's dry because it turns from blue to white, I will burnish it down, and then it gets like really, really sparkly. And I kind of wanted just to add that sparkly effect to this tropical card. And then you'll see here in a second when the I'm going to burnish it And I'm not sure you can tell the difference, but it really does make a difference when you burnish that down. It's pretty fun. And so here, the Fun Foam one on the right is how it cuts out originally. But I didn't want to have all the scrolliness with everything I had going on in the background, so I cut it down just a little bit. And so I'm using my Zig 2A glue pen to add glue to the back of the paper die cut and sticking it down to the Fun Foam. And then I will just trim off those extra pieces to kind of alter it a little bit. And that is something you can very easily do to pretty much any die cut you've got. Now I cut a frame using the Stitched Rectangles dies from Elizabeth Craft Designs, and I adhered my watercolor piece down to an A2 size card base. And now I'm just trying to figure out how am I going to place all of this within the frame to get it to look pretty good, but not cover up too much of the sunset, because the sunset was really kind of my focus for the card and the thing that I thought was the prettiest. So once I get it kind of where I think it's good, I'm going to take all of the other components off and leave the wave in place. And I will take a mechanical pencil and draw very thin little lines around it so I know where to position it once I'm going to put it down. And I'm putting some 6mm adhesive on the back of these pieces to adhere it to the watercolor paper. In my experience, my ATG gun doesn't really like to adhere to watercolor paper too well. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but especially like high quality watercolor paper, which Arches is, it doesn't like to work. So that's why I'm using tape, so I can ensure that this is going to adhere down real well. And so once I get my beach in place, or island, whatever this is, I will again trim off the excess from behind the back of the card. And then I'm going to put my palm tree in place. Now the palm tree, as I mentioned, has these pieces in it that are very dimensional. There you can see as I'm kind of pushing them up a little bit so you can see. So you have to glue only around the outer edge, and you don't want to glue down any of those pieces that lift up. So that's why I'm being kind of careful with my Zig 2A glue pen. And then I'm going to stick this down in place and then put an acrylic block on top of it just to get it like nicely adhered down. Now this frame is a tiny bit bigger than the A2 size card, so I've used 3mm adhesive just on the inside of the edges of the frame. And here I'm going to try to pull up some more of those dimensional bits on the palm leaves, which are really fun. It's a little bit hard to tell maybe on the video, but in person they look really cool. And the coconuts lift up, and parts of the trunk do too. So I'm going to just take the adhesive off the top here and get it lined up correctly, because it's a little bit tricky since it's a tiny bit bigger. And then I'll take it off the sides, and you won't see me do it, but later I take it off the bottom too. It looks like I just leave it there without the bottom adhered, but I do take it off the bottom. And so then my frame's in place, and now I'm just going to stick down my hello greeting, and I'm going to use some Zig 2A glue pen for this. Now this is a little bit tricky because the pen that I've got is like the squeeze type, so you squeeze it and press it down and the glue comes out. But the foam you can't really press into very well because it's so squishy, so I wound up having to kind of press it on the craft mat to get the glue out. And then I added some shading and some texture to the beach. So my shadow is with the IG2 Spectrum Noir. My texture was with the TN2. And then I added some copper leafing pen to the coconuts just to highlight them a little bit. And I'm not sure if in the pictures in the video you can really see how like sparkly the greeting is, and then how dimensional that background is. Like the kind of orangey yellowy part actually has a lot of sort of speckles on it that are pretty cool looking. So hopefully I've given you a little tropical inspiration today, and I'm showing you another way you can use Distress Oxides to create kind of a funky and cool sunset look. I thought it was kind of different and really easy. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would absolutely, totally, positively love it if you'd subscribe. Thanks. Have a great day.